So we've just discussed the differences between your civil rights and your civil liberties. But now let's talk about how the Constitution articulates the differences between these rights and liberties. For example, the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights guarantees your right to practice whatever religion you please. Government then can't interfere with your freedom of worship. The overwhelming majority of our American civil liberties are based on the Bill of Rights. These are the first 10 amendments added to the Constitution in 1791. Civil liberties are protected in the Bill of Rights, and they may be divided into two broad areas: rights and freedoms that come from the First Amendment, and liberties and rights associated with the due process of the law. Civil rights are also protected by the 14th Amendment, which protects violation of rights and liberties by the state governments. So think about the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedoms of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. In other words, this pretty much means the government can't mess with you, your family, your news, your views, or your right to assemble. You can say what you want within established reason, and the government can't stop you. You can associate with friends, family, professional or political associates, and that it might even mean protesting your government. You have a right to a free press. That means the government can't control your TV, the internet, or your news. And you have a freedom to worship, which doesn't just mean that you can practice your faith, but you're also free from having the government impose its religion on you. The Fourth Amendment doesn't specifically articulate privacy. It doesn't use the word in the amendment, but it does say you should be free from an intrusive government, and therefore secure in your person. This should mean that government can't meddle in your private affairs or spy on your personal life. In other words, search and seizure need to be limited by your reasonable expectation of privacy. Anything beyond that, and they better bring a warrant. Next up is your Fifth Amendment. This refers to the notion of due process. In other words, your guarantees that you'll receive fair treatment from the government whenever the loss of your life or property is at stake. Pleading the Fifth in court is the best known use of this amendment, but it actually reaches further than that. It also means that the government can't do things without trial. They can't hold you in jail indefinitely. It also means it's not enough to just have these liberties from government intrusion. You have to be aware of them, and the government has to inform you of your rights. If you've ever watched Law & Order, or any other cop show on television for that matter, you've heard your Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent, etc. That's a Fifth Amendment protection. Next up is the Eighth Amendment. This amendment guarantees protections from government when you're caught in the legal system. It's pretty straightforward. No unreasonable fines, no excessive bail, and that all too familiar phrase, no cruel or unusual punishment. Finally, the 14th Amendment, and the one amendment that exists outside of the Bill of Rights that we'll be discussing today. This amendment represents one of the most litigated parts of the Constitution. It forms the basis for major landmark decisions, such as Roe v. Wade regarding abortion, and Brown v. the Board of Education, which paved the way for integration. The first section of this amendment is the most hotly contested, and I also think it's the most important. It affirms due process and equal protection. The first part assures that the Bill of Rights applies to state and local government. The second requires each state to provide equal protections under the law. In other words, you get equal treatment regardless of race, sex, religion, or your nation of origin. The government can't harass you or treat you differently. It protects your rights and liberties even when you're different from those in power and the people that are in charge. You have protections from those people. The protections of both our civil liberties and our civil rights is basic to America's political values and the lives we want for ourselves and our family. But the process is far from easy. It falls to us to stand and fight for these rights the founders fought and died for. It's our responsibility, and it's our job to defend these sacred civil liberties. The best way to do that is to know them backwards and forwards, when to use them, and how to exercise your liberties from your government. That's why we're here to help.